Hi, it's Steve and Joe from Freshagenda, and Steve, we're back this week. And you have read your first Jane Austen novel.
It's taken this long.
Yeah. So what does that mean for, the video?
I'll be far more sensitive. I'll probably listen to you a lot better. And I'll have a lot more witty repartee, I'm sure, with a bit of intrigue.
Well, that will make a nice change.
Thanks.
So, Steve, this week we've got another GDT that was slightly negative.
Yeah. When I get this working, that'll go well. We're going to start with that.
Bit of a discussion of milk values.
Yeah.
And then, of course, chart of the week.
Of course.
Everyone's favourite.
To finish with strength. So GDT 310. It's a bit of background, two things in the background. US cheese markets weakened quite profoundly in the last little while. Lost $600 since mid-May. Both cheddar and barrels falling, so that's on weaker demand. We've talked about that. Remember that great chart you put up a few weeks ago about
gasoline and all cheese,
that starting to kick in. Right? The other interesting thing is this little addition of skim milk powder, a little bit of a mix shift there. You can see that there, and I'll toggle between it just for effect because I think it's really cool. That they've brought, shifted a little away from whole milk powder, brought on some skim milk powder at the end of, in July, you can see there, and in coming months. So would that affect the market? Interesting. But it didn't really. So in the background further, most difference, big colour changes here from what we've had last time.
Yeah.
Everything's either sideways, just slightly sideways, and down. So some weaker sentiment. It's not because of milk. I think in the US it is certainly a demand issue. In Europe, it's probably a little bit of the same, but milk is certainly not easing up there. That's still quite tight.
It's a lot of probably uncertainty on the demand side, you would have to say.
So this time we saw, as you said, mostly negative. The index went down 1.5%. I still haven't worked out how they calculate that. But the big changes there. Obviously, AMF has really tanked, and cheddar.
Cheddar was massive, wasn't it?
Yeah. So there's probably good reason for that. So we'll press on. So demand was in the major commodities was pretty good. Kind of good in skim milk powder. Whole milk powder sort of had a little bit of a start, but petered out.
Certainly lower start than last time.
Yeah, last time it really rocked. But butter was quite strong on small volumes. So the trick here is that the butter volumes are well down, and we're at the trough of the season, obviously.
Sure.
Everyone will take heart from the fact that China came back in the powders. Again, small volumes, so I don't think this is a test yet of whether demand is coming back. It's still, we're at the low part of the season, and they bought less than half.
It's a portion of a toe in a small pond.
It is.
Of water.
And Southeast Asia came into skim milk powder as well, which is also quite important to keep that going. While we're in skim milk powder, we've had this amazing flip. That wasn't long ago that New Zealand skim milk powder was the cheapest. That's flipped right round. So just comparing where the quotes are this week, and I guess the juxtaposition is pretty clear there. We had a very strange result with Arla's product on GDT. It was $200 worse than the Fonterra product, which is unusual given where European prices are.
Sure.
And the US has sagged a little bit. And that's probably weighed down by the overall weaker market there. That's pulling down, because there is a big difference between class 3 and class 4 now. Maybe that's a driver. But we've seen the premium for New Zealand product stretch out to be well above average. So yeah, quite interesting.
Yeah.
The other thing, obviously, cheddar has crashed. As I said, losing 600 in the US in that time, but it's been more spectacular on GDT, which has lost 1,600 over that period. It is processing cheese, so it's not the market as such. But just be wary that the US market is weakening, and there's a lot more talk about better export interest into that market. So that's going to be impacting what we see out here, and you can see the difference in vol. But that young cheddar price quite close to the stream return from skim and butter there.
Yes.
But the Australian market pricing still well above 6,000 according to Dairy Australia's last quotes. That's really important for milk values.
Yes, in this country. It'll be interesting to see if it holds.
Yeah. Speaking of milk values, we've gone through a bit of a revision of our commodity milk value. We've pulled that down because of quickly rising costs in the last quarter. So we've reflected that it's energy as well as diesel, which has been moving up steadily. So in the last few months, that's taken nearly $1 off the commodity milk value and brought it back to about where milk prices are moving to now. So we've had more increases in this market. So that's getting pretty interesting. Just to remark, if the cheddar market in Australia lost the value that we've seen fall on GDT, so let's say $800, that would take another $1 off that CMB. So there'll be some nervous cheesemakers with pretty strong milk prices out there watching what happens from here. So, Sobering. How we compare to New Zealand. So I've converted the last result on GDT, close to. Into Australian dollars, we have a few adjustments for mix and protein, and then conversion costs, and that's got a bit wider with the things we just talked about.
Sure.
Back to an Australian value. So that's still always an interesting comparison.
It really is, but it's stark, isn't it? Smaller factories, different product mix, not quite the efficiencies that the Kiwis can achieve.
You can see the difference that cheese is giving the Australian mix there over whole milk powder. Worth 70 cents, not to be forgotten.
Hopefully it holds.
And going the other way, chart of the week, what have you got?
Yeah, well, a bit of change of pace. The EU April numbers came out for trade, and they're fairly stark, aren't they? I mean, just painting the picture of how tight supplies are. We've gotten, I suppose this product is just pre-peak, but we've gotten through the peak. There's not much more milk coming down the pipes.
No.
But exports are really struggling in most categories, particularly those powders. And we'd expect, with what's happening in energy prices in Europe and milk availability, that they'll continue to export less in terms of skim and whole milk powder in particular. And then cheese, see how their domestic markets hold up in this new inflationary world.
Yeah, I think one thing I did see in the detail of this, the UK cheese imports are still doing better year on year, sort of recovering, but whether that holds up or not, because inflation's reaching that market as well, and whether that puts pressure on spending because it's a big food service market.
Yeah. But certainly a very interesting trend, mostly down.
Okay, well, that's all from us. We'll be back next week. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.